South Korea once again warns of an end of the regime for any North Korean nuclear attack following the regime changing its constitution for the advancement of its nuclear force. This amid Pyongyang remaining defiant on the Pentagon's recent WMD document. South Korean stocks were sharply down today as markets opened after a long holiday at home, and so were others around the world over fears of prolonged monetary tightening by the U.S. Federal Reserve. The curtains go up this evening for the 10-day Busan International Film Festival. Check out what you need to know for this year's event, from latest film trends to the star-studded lineup. It's October 4th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We start this evening with renewed warning coming from the south. Seoul's defense ministry warns that North Korea will face the end of its regime should it use its nuclear weapons, taking aim at the regime recently having adopted constitutional amendment to reinforce its nuclear power. Pyongyang, in the meantime, has slammed the U.S. for calling the regime a persistent threat, claiming, in fact, that it's the other way around. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
Seoul's defense ministry has warned that should North Korea use its nuclear weapons, this would bring about the end of its regime. Wednesday's warning comes after Pyongyang last week enshrined its status as a nuclear power in its constitution. The ministry said South Korea's military possesses a joint Seoul-Washington readiness posture that can overwhelmingly respond to any attack from North Korea. It added such threats to peace and stability will further isolate North Korea from the international community and worsen the suffering of its people. Pyongyang's constitutional amendment stated its ambition to advance its nuclear capabilities, reinforcing that denuclearization is not up for discussion. In fact, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to accelerate nuclear weapons production to deter, quote, U.S. provocations. The regime's state-run media reported on Wednesday that North Korea's defense ministry criticized the U.S. for describing the North as a persistent threat on its new strategy on countering weapons of mass destruction. It added that the world's biggest threat from weapons of mass destruction comes from none other than the U.S. The ministry accused Washington of increasing nuclear threats, referring to the joint military drills with South Korea and the deployment of its strategic nuclear submarine near the Korean peninsula. On that note, the North Korean military pledged to counter the U.S. military tactics with the most overwhelming and sustained response strategy. Though such a response from the North is not unusual, the latest exchanges come as there are growing concerns that North Korea and Russia are pushing for an arms deal. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Starting tomorrow, Japan begins releasing a second batch of stored water from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant. South Korea plans to send another team of experts to the site for monitoring. Our Pei Yun-ji has this report.
Despite protests from neighboring countries, including South Korea and China, Japan plans to start the discharge of a second batch of Fukushima wastewater into the sea on Thursday. Just like the first batch, a total of about 7,800 tons of water will be heading into the Pacific Ocean. The process will take 17 days, meaning around 460 tons a day will be released. To address concerns, the South Korean government announced Wednesday that it'll dispatch another team of experts from the Korea Institute of Nuclear Safety to Fukushima to monitor the release process. But it did not give further details, including when they will depart or how long they will stay in Japan. This will be the third time that South Korea is sending its own experts to Fukushima, after the two countries earlier agreed to have Korean experts regularly visit the IAEA field office there.
Just like the previous two dispatches, the team will visit the IAEA field office, as well as the facilities in the plant, and hold video conferences with the IAEA. It'll focus on making sure that the second batch is discharged properly, as originally planned by the Tokyo Electric Power Company.
If all goes as planned, Japan will be discharging 2% of the wastewater stored in the Fukushima power plant by March next year. A total of 1.34 million tons of water, enough to fill 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools, will be discharged over the next 30 years. Pei Yun-ji, Arirang News.
Amid recent improvements in relations between South Korea and Japan, the two countries will hold vice-ministerial talks tomorrow here in Seoul. Seoul's foreign ministry said Wednesday that the strategic dialogue will be held between First Vice Foreign Minister Chang Ho-jin and his Japanese counterpart Masataka Okano. This will be the first meeting of its kind in 9 years, with the last having taken place in 2014. The first was held in 2005 as a way to discuss bilateral relations and enhance cooperation between the two countries. Thursday's talks come as a follow-up to the historic summit between President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in March. Following the 6-day Chuseok holiday in the country, the top office sets the tone for its policy priority for the fourth quarter, which will center on helping the economy and people's livelihoods. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young explains.
Supporting Korean businesses and households will top President Yoon Suk-yeol's agenda for the remainder of the year, amid fragile trade conditions and a likely rise in the cost of living. The presidential office said Tuesday that in the fourth quarter, the Yoon administration will run state affairs with a focus on revitalizing the Korean economy, including exports and investment, stabilizing people's livelihoods, as well as strengthening diplomacy and security. Following the extended Chuseok holiday, presidential spokesperson Lee Do-won said the government plans to support export businesses to help their recovery by the year end, as trade figures on Sunday show the country's decline of outbound shipments slightly eased in September as semiconductor chip sales rebounded. Despite the recent turnaround for major trade industries, including chips, automobiles and petrochemicals, Lee acknowledged that trade uncertainties still remain, given Seoul's heavy trade dependency and rising global energy prices. He emphasized the government's growing focus on boosting the domestic economy.
The President's summit diplomacy has continued to focus more on investment in Korea from foreign governments and firms, rather than foreign investment made by Korean companies.
Key pledges include Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates' respective promises to invest $29 billion and $30 billion US, which are expected to create high-quality jobs for South Koreans. He added that the Yoon administration will continue to manage price levels and real estate policies that directly impact people's livelihoods. This comes amid concerns that growing energy and material costs will push up food and utility bills in the country, which, according to the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday, saw household debt increase in 2021 by the highest rate among OECD countries since the COVID-19 pandemic. Boosting the economy will be a critical task for the incumbent government, just half a year away from the parliamentary elections, with a number of presidential aides moving to enter the race over the coming weeks. A senior presidential official said Tuesday that over 30 aides in the top office are preparing to throw their hats in the ring and resign from their current positions after the National Assembly concludes its annual government audit this month. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has shown his gratitude to the former nurses and miners who were sent to Germany from South Korea in 1960 for laying the foundations of South Korea's industrial growth. On Wednesday, President Yoon invited around 240 former nurses and miners at a hotel in Seoul, as this year marks 60 years since the first batch was sent to Germany and the 140th anniversary of the 1883 signing of diplomatic ties between Germany and the Joseon dynasty. Acknowledging their sacrifice and dedication, he said the government will ensure they're better taken care of, especially with the recent launch of the Overseas Koreans Agency, as some still reside in Germany. Back in the 1960s, some 20,000 South Korean nurses, miners, and nursing assistants were sent to Germany as part of efforts to earn foreign currency. Global stock markets and currencies took a hit amid hawkish Fed remarks, signaling that they could keep interest rates higher for longer. South Korea's stock markets, having opened after a long holiday, plummeted, and the Korean won weakened sharply against the greenback. Or Moon Hye-ryun has the details.
Stock markets around the world have taken a hit amid speculation that the U.S. Federal Reserve will prolong its monetary tightening measures. Seoul's benchmark Kospi tumbled by 2.41% on Wednesday, closing at just above 2,405, well below the 2,500 threshold as it fell throughout the day's trading session. The tech-heavy Kosdaq fell by 4%. Major European stock indexes fell by more than 1% and US stocks also slipped, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average falling by 1.43%, while the S&P 500 dropped 1.53% and the Nasdaq lost more than 2% amid sharp tech losses. Conversely, the 10-year US Treasury yield has hit its highest level in 16 years, at about 4.8% as risk-averse investors seek safe haven assets. Global currencies were also heavily affected, weakening against the dollar. The exchange rate for the Korean won weakened to around 1,363 Korean won against the greenback, a 14.21 swing from the day before. The Japanese yen also lost value sharply against the dollar after breaching the key 150 yen level for the first time since October last year. These volatile market conditions come following hawkish remarks from Fed officials possibly signaling continued rate hikes, as job openings in the United States rose more than expected in August, a sign of a strong economy that could prompt the central bank to keep interest rates higher for longer. In response to these fluctuations, the Bank of Korea held a market review meeting where its vice president emphasized economic uncertainty and spoke of rising oil prices due to the growing possibility of the Fed's prolonged high interest rates. He stressed that the domestic financial and foreign exchange markets could become more volatile and that close monitoring would be needed, with the central bank taking measures to stabilize the market if necessary. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The nation's industrial output looks to be picking up, with August marking the biggest month-on-month increase in 2.5 years, largely driven by a recovery in chip production. Our An Sung-jin has more.
South Korea's overall industrial production for August saw the highest month-on-month increase since February 2021. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, alongside the manufacturing and services sector seeing improvement, industrial production also rose by 2.2% compared to the previous month. The mining and manufacturing sector mainly contributed to the boost in industrial production, as semiconductor output climbed by 13.4%. This figure indicates a rebound for the industry, which saw a year-on-year increase of 8.3%, with a boost in the production of memory chips.
These figures for semiconductor production also reflect quality, not only volume. Production of high-performance memory chips, for example, saw an increase as demand also increased.
Infrastructure investment also increased by 3.6% compared to July, as investing in chips and transportation rose, though this is a 14.9% year-on-year decrease as spending on mechanical products and vehicles fell. The services sector also saw a slight increase as the sports and leisure industry increased by 6.2%. Despite an overall increase in production, consumption for August slightly fell by 0.3% as sales of vehicles and clothing declined. An official from Statistics Korea noted that high interest rates took a toll on sluggish consumption patterns. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
If you are a movie lover, you might want to pay attention. It's time for the annual Busan International Film Festival. The curtains go up this evening for the 10-day event. Let's connect live to our culture correspondent, Song Yujin in Busan. Yujin, tell us all about it.
Well, first of all, hello and good evening, Jungmin. Hello from Busan. As you can see, I'm currently at the Busan Cinema Center, where the opening ceremony is taking place right behind me, and this is also the main venue of the annual Busan International Film Festival. So the ceremony opened its curtains at 6 p.m. and the red carpet rolled out about a half an hour ago. So since then, we've been seeing, and we're still seeing, a long line of actors and filmmakers from all around the world to grace the red carpet to attend the 28th edition of the Busan International Film Festival. Now, Busan International Film Festival, BIFF, also known for short, is Korea's first international film festival, and over the past few decades, it has become the largest one in Asia. Now, to talk about this year's edition, 209 films from 69 countries have been invited for official screening. And this is actually a slight decrease from last year and is mainly due to budget constraints. That's because the executive committee experienced internal conflict regarding committee structure changes.
Yes, it does seem as though there has been a number of challenges in the build-up to this year's festival, but the atmosphere there looks incredibly festive, Eugene. Tell us what's worth noticing this evening.
You're right, Jongmin. So far, the opening ceremony is smooth sailing, and what you can expect at the opening ceremony, Korean actor Song Kang-ho, who won the Best Actor award at last year's Cannes Film Festival, he is currently here to welcome guests for the opening ceremony. Now, Song will also be serving as a host of this year's BIFF because the positions of chairman and the festival director are currently vacant. And also adding to the star-studded lineup is legendary Hong Kong actor Cho Yun-fa, attending to accept the Asian Filmmaker of the Year award. And as for the opening film, which will kickstart off the ceremony and also the festival, it's Because I Hate Korea by Korean filmmaker Jang Won-jae. And also what's very notable is that for the first time in BIFF history, we'll be seeing a single host, actress Park Eun-bin, for the opening ceremony. That's because her co-host Lee Jae-hoon unexpectedly underwent surgery a few days ago. But to come back here at the opening ceremony venue, not only the filmmakers and actors who are participating in the ceremony are excited, but also let's take a listen to how excited the audience is about the ceremony too.
Because I'm a big fan of Parasite. It was my first Korean movie I saw in France in a theater, and I fell in love with Korean cinema.
I'm a huge fan of Chow Yun-fat's work, and I was really into Hong Kong movies last year. I can't wait to see him in person.
And finally, could you highlight some of the other major events taking place this year?
Well, it's really hard to pick because so many events are taking place, but to name a few, as you know, Jongmin, this year marks the 120th anniversary of the first Korean emigration to the United States. And also, over the past few years, we've been seeing a lot of Korean-American filmmakers and actors making their mark on the global stage. So in light of this, BIFF prepared a special program titled the Korean Diasporic Cinema, which will shed light on and introduce Korean-American actors, filmmakers, and related movies. For example, Minari, Searching, and Past Lives. And BIFF is also working to catch up with the latest cinematic trend because we cannot leave out streaming services when talking about movies these days. So the inaugural edition of the Asia Contents Awards, the Global OTT Awards, is scheduled for this Sunday, which is October 8th. Now, its predecessor, the Asia Contents Awards, recognized TV and streaming service content only from Asia, but from this year, the awards has expanded its award coverage worldwide. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Jongmin.
Our Song Yoo-jin live at the Busan International Film Festival. Over in the U.S., after the controversial budget passage to avert a government shutdown, the U.S. House passed an unprecedented motion to remove its Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. This is the first time ever the House has removed its Speaker, spearheaded by Democrats, along with a few hard-right Republicans. Our Lee Si-hoo has the latest.
The motion to oust Kevin McCarthy, driven by a small group of right-wing Republicans, passed in a 216 to 210 vote, making him the first Speaker of the House to be ousted in a no-confidence vote. The motion to vacate the chair of the U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was introduced by Republican Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida.
Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word.
Despite opposing views and support for McCarthy, also a Republican.
And one thing Speaker McCarthy embraced from day one is to start making those kind of changes to this institution, opening up the process, allowing members to be more engaged, having amendments come to the floor, single subject bills, doing appropriations bills.
No clear successor has emerged yet, but Representative Patrick McHenry of North Carolina has assumed the role of Speaker pro tempore. The ouster was set in motion on Saturday when Mr. McCarthy averted a government shutdown by passing a short-term funding bill with the help of House Democrats before it passed the Senate and was signed by President Biden. The 45-day continuing resolution displeased some Republicans in the House who accused McCarthy of not doing enough to cut federal spending. The vacancy comes at a critical time when Congress has just a little over 40 days to avert another potential shutdown of the government. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Now let's turn to the Asian Games in Hangzhou. For the latest on Team Korea, we connect live to our sports reporter Choi Soo-hyung. Hello, Soo-hyung. More medals added today, including in archery. What's the story there?
Hi, Jungmin. Yes, 1 gold, 3 silvers, and 1 bronze yesterday, and another silver so far today. Finally, the medal matches for archery, which is one of Korea's strongest sports, has begun. Just a few hours ago, Korea's archers picked up their first medal, a silver, in the compound mixed team event. They lost out of India in the gold medal match. The duo of So Chae-won and Chu Jae-hoon earned a total of 158 points, losing to Jyoti Srekha-Venom and Oyas Pravin Deotale of India by just a single point. In the individual archery event for recurve women's, Korea's An-san and Im Si-hyun both reached the final and will compete for gold medal on Saturday. As a result, Korea will definitely add a gold and a silver medal in archery. Moving on to yesterday's medals, a gold medal in the game of Go. In Go, as known as Paduk in Korea, the men's team claimed the gold medal, beating China. Team Korea's Shin Jin-seo, Shin Min-jun, and Park Jong-hwan won 3 out of 5 games. They added to Shin Jin-seo's bronze medal in the men's individual event and a silver medal yesterday in the women's team event. This comes 13 years after Go was last played at the Asian Games. In track and field, Korea claimed a bronze in the men's 4x100-meter relay, its first medal in the event since the 1986 Seoul Asian Games. The team, composed of Kim Gu-kyung, Lee Jung-tae, Lee Jae-sung, and Ko Seung-hwan, finished with the new national record of 38.74 seconds. China took gold and Japan won silver in the event. Let's move on to canoeing. Team Korea captured silver medals in both men's and women's kayak team 500-meter. In the men's gold medal match, Korea recorded as 1 minute 25.006 seconds, right behind China. In the women's final, the team secured a silver medal with a time of 1 minute 42.870 seconds, once again behind the Chinese team. The South Korean canoe sprint team has now won a total of 3 silver medals in Hangzhou. Still to come today. One event to look out for is the men's high jump event scheduled for 7 p.m. Korea time, where South Korean medal contender Woo Sang-hyuk is set to participate. Moreover, Kim Soo-ji in women's 3-meter springboard advanced to the final in 3rd place during the qualifiers and aims for Korea's first ever medal in the event at 6:30 p.m. Korea time. Lastly, the South Korean men's football team will face Uzbekistan in the semi-finals at 9 p.m. tonight. That's it from me. Let's take a look at the medal standings.
A low-pressure system will briefly drop showers on central regions and the surrounding areas tonight. Northern Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces will see 5 to 20 millimeters. The surrounding regions, including Chungcheong-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces, will see 5 millimeters of rainfall coming and going. After the rain, a group of cold air mass will filter into the nation. Therefore, expect readings to drop significantly. Tomorrow, Seoul will see morning temperatures dropping by about 5 degrees. Down to 10 degrees Celsius. Other regions will also see breezier spells tomorrow. For regions with higher elevations, frost and ice may even appear for the morning hours. Frost may cause potential damage to agricultural crops, so please take extra precautions beforehand. And for those across the west coast, keep in mind that gusty winds of up to 15 meters per second may sweep across the region. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 10 degrees Celsius. More sunshine will prevail for the daytime. Highs in Seoul will peak at 18 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju 19, Daegu and Gyeongju will be peaking at 20 degrees Celsius. Readings will stay below the seasonal average until this Friday. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session is coming up.